Today we welcome Indiana Mad Ants coaching associate Alex Bowman. Alex, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, Blake.
Yeah, excited to talk to you and give people a little more insight into what goes on at the G League level and the amount of responsibility that people like yourself have in making it all happen and how that sort of works out for you and your journey and also helps the players at where they're at. So we'll start there. What does a coaching associate mean at the G League level, and take people through what your day-to-day responsibilities are?
For sure. Well, the first thing to understand is as much as the G League is incredibly high level basketball, incredibly talented players all around the league, and is on the upward trend in terms of its notoriety, its validity in people's eyes, its use in the NBA, it is still more undermanned. So, by nature of the G League, no matter where you are, you're going to be asked to wear a lot of different hats and help beyond what your written duties are, let's say. So, even though my duties mainly rely with video and player development and more on the coaching side, I'm still expected and needed to help out with equipment, with laundry sometimes. I drive the team bus. I do literally whatever it is that needs to be done to make sure that things can operate on the day to day. Usually, with the G League structure, you'll have two people in a seasonal position, one person that's closer to the coaching side, which would be me. So every team calls it a different thing, but my team calls it a coaching associate. And then there'll usually be a companion position that's more on the front office and basketball operations side of things. Um, so it's really a good breaking in point for a lot of people, and that's usually the positions where people break into. But regardless of what your positions are on paper, you just need to be ready to help out wherever and whenever.
What does your day-to-day look like?
For sure. My day to day on regular days, if there is such a thing in the G League, is really a lot of preparation for the things that are coming the rest of the day. That's being in the coaches meeting, that's making sure that they have what they need, whether that's scouting reports printed, play cards printed, practice plans printed, being in the coaching meeting. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm with a staff that trusts me and values me enough to where I have somewhat of a voice and input in the meetings if I'm ever called upon. So I'm I do take a participation role in the coaches meetings. Then it's onto the floor where we'll have practice. I could be doing anything from being a live body in drills to rebounding, passing, wiping up sweat on the floor. I could be a ref. I could be running the shot clock. Whatever needs to get done, I'm expected to help out and do it. And then after practice, it's working on whatever various projects I have going on, whether that's helping a coach with a film edit, whether that's pulling something for a different coach, working with our analytics department, which we're fortunate enough to have. That could be making sure that everything is good with the players' apartments. I mean, the list really goes on and on. And then being on call for if players need to come back to the gym and get some extra work in. And then game days, a lot of similar responsibilities in terms of making sure that the little things are set up, making sure that everybody has scouting reports. Do we have the board for the coaches to draw plays up on? Is the locker room set up? Be active and ready during shoot arounds or walkthrough. Uh, I am lucky enough to have some scouts. So obviously I'd be responsible for delivering my scouts and presenting my scouts to the team. And then on games when I don't have that, my in-game responsibilities are straight video. So I'm live coding. I'm making sure we have our halftime edit ready if need be. I'm making sure that the coaches have everything they need during halftime and after the game. Get our coaches the game, the opposing coaches the game if they need it, helping with arena breakdown and cleaning up the locker room, and then sometimes working out players after the game.
Gotcha. So as you've talked a lot about, you have so much responsibility at the G League level, and I can imagine that that's probably super beneficial and is, as cool or as good as it might be in its own right to start out at the NBA level early in your career. Can you talk about just kind of like the value that you see in sort of doing what you're doing at the G League level, just in terms of the amount of responsibility that you have? Like, what is the value there, you think?
Absolutely. I mean, let's not get it twisted in any way. The NBA is the NBA. That's where almost everybody's trying to get to. I mean, we even our staff, we all understand where we're trying to be, and we know that the way to get there is to do the best job we can where we are. That being said, with there being a smaller staff, with there being more responsibilities, at the position I have the opportunity to do things that people in my counterpart position in the NBA, somewhere in the video room, would not be responsible for. Like, I get to have scouts. That's usually a responsibility that's delegated to assistant coaches in terms of preparing the team for an opponent. Um, I'm much more hands-on during the process leading up to the G League draft. And I mean, even in my first year in the G League, I was in the draft meetings responsible for watching and scouting players. And then our general manager, our assistant general manager, our coaching staff is turning and saying, okay, Alex, what do you think about this player? It even came down to in the first G League draft I was a part of, one of the players that I scouted was on the board when we had our last pick. And it was pivotal of like, okay, we need to use this pick on somebody. Who are we going to go with? Who knows this guy? And it was my guy. And I got to advocate for that guy. And usually the last pick in the G League draft, or the last pick a team has in the G League draft, doesn't stick around long, but that ended up being a guy that was vital for us the whole season and is back with us this year. So even though it doesn't have the frills of an NBA staff, it doesn't have the same responsibilities and the same things I'd be responsible for with an NBA staff. I get to do so much more just based on the needs of the job than I would in an NBA video room.
Absolutely. What's your favorite part about what you're doing at the G League level?
I'm sure that this would also be true at the NBA level, but I'm around people both on the staff and on the roster that love basketball and love what they do. I mean, similar to earlier in my journey, I was a student manager at a Division 3 school, and then I was a manager at a Power 5 school. Um, it really says a lot about what somebody's made of and how much they love something if they're willing to do it in situations that aren't as luxurious, that aren't as easy. And of course, there are much more difficult places to be playing and worse situations to be in the G League. The G League is phenomenal. People just don't necessarily have the understanding of that until they see it up close or see something like your show that gives exposure to the G League. But I'm around people that love what they do and are excited to do what they do. And I'm one of those people. I have a passion about what I do, and it's really good to be around that. But in a more specific answer, I love the video work that I do because it's a skill that I've first wasn't very good at and then sharpened and honed to a place where I'm much more comfortable and have come out of a lot of situations where if it weren't for my know-how, things could have gotten real bad. And I like connecting with the players, connecting with the staff, and having these moments where my number gets called and I'm ready and I deliver. Though there have been a handful of really special moments like that over my 3 years in the G League, but those are, those never cease to be special.
Speaking of connecting with the players, one guy who does play for the Mad Ants that I got to bring up just because I am a Miami grad, go Canes, the U baby, is Isaiah Wong. He was a guy that, of course, was on a couple different Miami teams that made some deep tournament runs, obviously, Final Four, Elite Eight. And I got a chance to interview Isaiah, interview some of his family members and do a story on him at one point. And just a really good human being and a dude who just super skilled. And Jim Larinaga always talked about how he thought he was going to be really good at the next level. So I'm just curious, you're around him every day. What's it been like working with Isaiah and just kind of talk about what you've seen from the coaching side in terms of what his game's like and how it's translating to this next level.
Sure. Well, one of the managers that I worked with at Michigan went on to be a graduate manager at Miami. And then when Isaiah came to the team and then I came back to the team, he let me know immediately, like, you're going to love Isaiah. He's the best. So I had already heard good things about him coming in, but he's one of the guys that you like being around every day at practice. As talented as he is, he works really, really hard. He always is hitting me or one of the other coaches to get in the gym. Takes his work seriously, which I always appreciate. And he's in a bit of a different role than he was at Miami. Now he has the ball in his hands a little bit more with a point guard, as a point guard, which if you watch Isaiah, you see like at his heart, he's a scorer. And he's like, if you need to go get a bucket, he's going to go get a bucket. And it's been just from the coaching aspect of what you were asking, it's been very, very cool to see him, one, get in these different situations and be playing at a higher level and be making these decisions that he might not necessarily have been able to make 8 months ago, 6 months ago. And then also retain the essence of who he is, where, I mean, we're playing Maine a few days ago, and he has 3 points going into the second half. And then he gets 21 points in the second half of just turning it on and being a go-to guy. He's I mean, obviously, as you've seen, he's definitely special, and I'll be bringing you up to him tomorrow.
Absolutely, man. I always got a root for my Canes, and he's a great dude on and off the court, as you said. Um, One of the other things that you talked about in one of the previous questions that we got into was the fact that you started at the D3 level and then transferred to Michigan. And I kind of want to get into that a little bit more. Take people through how you got into all of this and what your journey was like going from D3 to then Michigan and then so on.
Sure. Graduating high school, I got accepted a number of places. One of them was this place called Lake Forest College in Lake Forest, Illinois. Go Foresters. And it lined up where it was going to be a great academic opportunity for me, as well as probably my best shot at playing college basketball. So after talking with my family, I went there. The coaches understood that I was going to try and walk on. I was at every workout, every lifting session, every 6 a.m. conditioning, every open gym, playing my heart out, doing everything that I had, giving everything I had. And then after 2 days of practice, the coaches were surprised that I was still 5'9". So it didn't quite go how I was expecting it to. And being D3, if people are familiar or unfamiliar, there's no red shirts in D3. So the coaching staff said, listen, we want to still have you around. You're great for our locker room and our culture, and we need your help. Would you be a student manager for us? And I was like, I don't really know what that means, but yes, I got you. So at Lake Forest, there was myself and a senior, and we were the two student managers. Still expected to help out during practice. Some of the things that I do now of being a live body, simulating defense, some scout team stuff if ever needed be, and helping guys work out. And then when things were wrapping up, it looked like my best just path in life was transferring to Michigan. Then my second year at Michigan, I got to become a student manager there. And I went from being one of two managers to one of 22 managers, which for anyone familiar with college basketball or student managers knows 22 is an insane number. Uh, but it was just night and day in terms of these are the facilities we have. These are the things that we have access to. This is what our schedule looks like. I mean, the team is flying chartered flights instead of connecting flights and commercial, like multi-state bus trips. And as difficult as some of that stuff is, there really is a beauty in it because you see these guys that really just love the game. They know that wherever their college career is going to go, or if it's going to be at this school, or if they transfer or whatever, at some point, the end is a lot closer than it is for some people at Power 5. And yeah, there's just a beauty to how much those guys still love the game and the situations that they were in and persisted through to still play the game. And to this day, it was a guy named some of my best friends are still from that team. But there's a guy named Eric Porter who was about my height, and across every level of basketball that I've worked at since then, still one of the best shooters I've ever seen. He got some buzz when he somebody videotaped one of his workouts and he made like 110, 111 threes in a row. Um, so there is still a ridiculous level of skill and a ridiculous talent across the board at D3, but it's night and day compared to just the everything around the game going from a Division 3 to a Power 5. I don't know if that answered your question, but I can talk more about Michigan or Lake Forest, whatever you need. But that's the biggest contrast between the two situations.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's funny because like so in what I do on the media side, I started at a community college, which I know is not like D3, but still like, like basically like a smaller school. And then I transferred to the University of Miami to like complete my college. And it's the same thing. Like I don't think it matters whether you're like an athlete or you're studying something or whatever. It's going from um you get used to having to make the most of really having no resources or limited resources to then having like everything at your
Everything,
disposal. And it's
everything.
almost like it's like you can't make a wrong move because like what do I do? Like what do I take advantage of and whatever. So definitely relate to that. And I think that a lot of people out there hearing that will as well, whether they're athletes or doing something else. Um, Talking a little bit more about Michigan, I did want to ask you just what was it like working under guys like John Beilein and Juwan Howard for the Wolverines?
Um, a through line of having any kind of journey in basketball is being lucky. And one of the things that I'm extremely lucky, or one of the things that was a result of me being extremely lucky, was getting to work under both of them. Um, very different guys run things differently. There are pros to each way. With Coach Beilein, everything was planned out to the minute. So each day we knew going into the building, we're going to be here for some hours, and every single minute of that day, we're going to know what we're going to be doing. Like it was segmented down to the most minute detail, which reflected how we played, reflected how he coaches. He's very much about this detail. This is going to be this way. This is going to be that way. Um, it was just very regimented, which is good. It keeps things on track, keeps things organized. Can be strenuous, of course, but there's no ambiguity about what's going on or what's supposed to be happening. And then working under Coach Howard, um, things were closer to what they are in the NBA, where there's a structure, but there's more room for what's the word I'm looking for? There's more room for improvisation. There's more room for things to change. Or somebody calls an audible and now we're working on this thing. Of course, we still go in every day with the understanding of what we're going to do. Doesn't mean that anything is any less serious or that the work is any less different and that people don't take it just as seriously. But it's okay. In going through our day-to-day stuff, we realize we need to work on our coverages more. Like we covered it, but we need to cover it more. So that's what we're going to stick with. And I think that prepared me a lot better for the NBA G League because I mean any given day is just about making adjustments and being ready for something to change. And loved getting to watch Coach Beilein and learn from Coach Beilein and have the relationship I had with Coach Beilein, and then even more of that with Coach Howard. Like Coach Howard is he's the reason why and what showed me that I really want to be a coach. So I can't say enough about either of those two gentlemen.
Definitely sounds like they prepared you well. And I mean, anybody that follows basketball should not be surprised to hear that. Like you said, that's one hell of a stroke of luck, man, to get to work for those two guys back to back at a school that, of course, has such a tradition And I'm sure, prepared you super well. And obviously it did, because you got an opportunity with the G League. So walk people through what that transition was like, going from college to then where you are now.
Sure. A big part of that was a conversation I had with Coach Howard. Um, my senior year was 2020, 2021 when we went to the Elite Eight. That's the team with Franz Wagner, Hunter Dickinson, Shawnee Brown, Mike Smith, Isaiah Livers, those names. And somewhere around December, when we had an off day and I was still in the building and coach was in his office, I had some things that were just kind of on my mind. And unfortunate enough, I had the relationship with him where I could go into his office and say, hey, coach, can I talk to you for a second? And him say, yes, of course. Now, not saying that me having that relationship with him is special from anybody else on our staff or student managers having that. That's the kind of person he is. I'm just still, I recognize how lucky I am to have that relationship with him at all. Um, and it was, coach, I have a very clear understanding of what my life and my life in basketball looks like from today until we're in the championship game. But after that, I don't really know what it looks like. I know that I love what I do, but I don't know what to do with that. Or I have some ideas of what I can do with that. And in just us talking, he said, player development. And then just like the light bulb went off. I was like, of course. Like it's the thing that I get up out of bed wanting to do every day. Um, So as my senior year started coming to a close, I got done with all my classwork. I started hitting LinkedIn like it was my job, um, just searching up any NBA personnel I could, going to the team pages, looking at people, and just trying to not even ask for a job, not ask for, are you hiring? Is anybody else hiring? I think this is a lesson that a lot of people learn early in their journey and trying to break in is you connect with people and you ask them for advice. You just ask them for knowledge because then they understand. Like, and there are a lot of people who understand where you are. That's where everybody starts, or mostly everybody starts. And just a big part of that is wanting to learn and wanting to make relationships. My goal with a lot of relationships I had was I hope that I never have to ask this person for anything. I hope if they ever ask me for anything, love to help, but I don't want this to seem like a transaction. I want this to be like I do what I do through whatever channels or whatever happens. I end up where I end up. They are where they are. And then we cross paths one day and it's just like, oh, yeah, this is that kid that I've known for a while that, loves what he does and all that type of stuff. So it started there in terms of just reaching out to people, connecting with people, talking to people, trying to learn about the industry, learn about the business, learn how people break in, what the positions look like. Because a lot of people don't even know. Like, I didn't know what a coaching associate was when I was a student manager. I didn't know that that's what I needed to be trying to target. Um, and then another big aspect was making sure the people who are in your corner will speak up for you. That was the biggest advice anybody gave me. It was the most powerful advice. It's the most helpful advice because your resume is cool, but your resume means a lot more when it comes along with someone that somebody else trusts saying, hey, I have a guy for you. So that's what that looked like.
Gotcha. Now that you are on the coaching side and you made it to this point, and like you said, it's funny how that happens sometimes. You're at this point in your journey where year two, three, a few years ago, you didn't even know that that was like a thing. And then here you are doing it, and you're enjoying it. If you could go back to that kid and say, here's a piece of advice from what you know now on the coaching side, what would that be?
The first thing would be to make sure my network knew what I wanted to do and not be afraid to ask them for help. Um, One of the people who I viewed as a mentor and was one of my professors, even not even somebody in basketball, when I was asking them about this kind of stuff, said, I want you to envision, because there were people that I was reluctant to reach out about because I've always been the type of person that if I can do something for myself, I'm going to do it for myself. If I don't need to ask for someone's help, I won't. If I absolutely need to, I will swallow my pride and do it. But for the most part, I try to just make it happen by whatever means I have available to me. Um, so I was reluctant about asking somebody that I knew, even for just advice about what I should do. Because I knew they worked in the NBA, I knew they were very busy, and I didn't want to be somebody pestering them, right? And my professor told me, I want you to think about what it would look like if you don't ask this person for help, you don't get to do what it is you're trying to do, and they run into you in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and they see that you're not doing what it is that you were trying to do, and they know what you're trying to do. They would be upset with you that you did not ask them for help. And that really, really sunk in with me. Because I told her, like, you're completely right. Because I would be the same way. If I knew somebody that I cared about could have asked me for help and then didn't, and then me not playing a part in whatever could have happened, maybe ended up in them not being where they wanted to be, I would feel bad about it. So I wish that I could have heard that even earlier, so that I could ask the people who I knew I had a relationship with and a good relationship. Hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Is there anything you can do or any way to help? Anything, any direction you think I should be looking in or what I should be doing? And then even earlier in my student manager journey would be learning video. Because at first it was a weakness and the other managers kind of took care of it. And then I realized more and more that not having that as a skill not only would hold me back as a manager, but would be essential to me working in basketball. And from that point on, I locked myself in the video room and I just was on the grind and made it less of a weakness, I'll say. And then once it became less of a weakness, eventually it could become a part of my skill set to, I mean, now where it is now. But even that doesn't happen without me getting into these different rooms and getting with these different teams and asking the people who know something, hey, how do you do this? What do you do? Can I learn from you? So those would be the things I would tell younger Alex, and to chill out because, relax.
Yo, don't we all wish we could tell ourselves that even like a year later after you're going through something. You're like, man, chill out. It's all gonna be all right.
Yeah, just
That's
relax.
Yeah, that's super profound though, man. Thank you for sharing that. Super helpful to me as I was listening to it, and I'm sure a lot of people will take some good nuggets out of what you said. One of the last things that I want to ask you is now that you are in the door, so to speak, in the NBA, at the G League level, what's your best advice for those that are trying to break in and, are in the spot that you were in not too long ago?
Networking. And I know everyone who's in that spot is tired of hearing that, but everybody's telling you that for a reason. Like I said before, make sure the people who are in your corner know what you want to do and make sure that you ask them for help if that's something that you're comfortable with and you have the relationship that warrants it. Don't rule anything out. It even took me connecting with various people around the NBA, talking to different people, talking to different scouts, video coordinators, operations people, for me to even for somebody got. And also there's a man named John Ross who's like a legend in the world of people trying to break into the NBA. And I believe he was the first person to tell me, and you're like, hey, don't rule out the G League. If anything, like people who talk to me about the G League and the WNBA, those are the people I know really want it. Because, like we've said earlier, it's a lot easier to do things at the level that has all the frills and all the prestige. It speaks a lot more if people are willing to grind it out in the G League or grind it out in the WNBA or even college. It's keep your options open because I know that there's 450 jobs in the NBA for players. If there are two of my position and there are 32 G League teams. That's not a lot of jobs open every year. Same thing for the NBA. You're talking from 2 to 5 openings every year for 30 teams. And the pool for to get into that is way bigger than the pool that's going to actually get it. So it's understanding the different avenues. Everybody's grind is different. Everybody's journey is different. That's another thing that, everybody's heard, and I'm sure people are tired of hearing, but it's the truth. It really is. Um, Make sure that your relationships and the ways that you're talking to people are genuine. Do not go about this transactionally. People will sniff that out and they will be done with you. Um, be patient. Understand it takes you getting really lucky, but you can just as easily sabotage yourself by being too anxious and not seeing an opportunity in front of you. And the last thing that I would say is just whatever opportunity you have or you get, you give it everything you got. You're not above doing anything. You're not turning your nose up at anything. You're not like, oh, this isn't really what I wanted to do. This thing isn't, or like, I get to do this, but like, I don't really want to print this stuff out, or I don't want to be making package runs, or I don't like, there are plenty of people who I'm sure in the video rooms across the G League don't want to be driving the bus, but we still do it. And you learn that it's almost like the things that you dread or some of the things that you think are going to be more difficult or you're going to hate are the things that give you some grit and some resilience and shape you into the person you're going to become. So, and then lastly, it's, as serious as some people's situations are, relax and just be calm.
Great advice, man. And I think one thing that you're really hitting on there is just like the trait of not giving up and being persistent, because it really feels like whether you're trying to do anything big in life, whether it's sports related or non-sports related, but especially with sports, because there are so few jobs, as you and I both know. Whether you're on the team side, the media side, the business side, it doesn't matter. There are so few openings. It's literally, like you said, about like not giving up. And those who make it are the ones that didn't give up, is sort of the gist of what I'm taking from what you're saying. And those who don't make it are typically the ones that, that call it quits. And I think that seems like it's one of the most important things from what you're saying.
Uh, Completely. I didn't mean to gloss over this earlier, but I went from when I transferred to Michigan and tried to be a student manager. That would be my sophomore year. My sophomore year, they told me no, and I had a year to myself of doing my schoolwork and doing all this other stuff. But that initial kick, it sucked. But I could have easily been like, okay, well, even though I did this at the D3 level and probably faced situations that D1 managers are never going to face. They don't think I can do it or whatever it is. But I still stuck it out. I still sat with myself and had to be comfortable with myself, understanding I tried to get this. It didn't work. It didn't happen. Doesn't mean I can't get it in the future. I went from, sitting on the couch watching the games to my senior year or my 5th year, we won the Big Ten and they let me hold the sign up. And I was pulling confetti out of my hair. So it doesn't seem like it in the moment, but like you really don't know what's going to happen. And you're never going to know if you don't stick it out. I know that worked out a lot better for me than it did for some other people throughout history, I guess. But you really never know where you're going to end up until you're there. So the most important thing is sticking it out.
Absolutely. Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us. You've been super gracious with your time and have dished out some great pieces of advice during this conversation, man. So appreciate you a lot.
I appreciate you, Blake. You have a very good talent for this, and I'm going to be tapped in with the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. That means a lot. As we close out, I also want to thank the viewers and the listeners for tagging along to the show. We are a newer show. Alex, you are our fourth episode, I believe, at this point. So thanks for being one of our first five. We we appreciate that.
For
Uh,
sure. Thank you.
and you can find our content on YouTube at UNIV Hoops. That's at Univ Hoops, and it's the same for Instagram and Twitter. So we're on YouTube, on Instagram and Twitter. Uh, Feel free to keep watching. We have new guests every week, whether it's somebody like Alex at the G League level. Our first three shows, we had people at the NBA level. We'll have more people at the G League level coming on soon. People at the college level. We're just trying to share people's stories and give people a an insight and sort of an angle into how this all works in the basketball world. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Blake Atwell. Thanks for tuning in to University of Hoops, and we'll see you next week.